Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about running shoes. So I've just come back from about an 11k run with Lids, and I've been wearing today Hoka Rocket X2s, which are Hoka's new, I guess they're their new performance shoe, their new carbon performance shoe. So over the last couple of years, I say 2 or 3 years, I guess performance shoes have become ever more prevalent in the sport of triathlon, sports of running. People are using them much more, and more companies are obviously producing them. And it's one of the things that over the last few years I've had real difficulty utilising effectively myself. And I've tried various different performance shoes. I've tried New Balance, Saucony's, I have tried Skechers performance shoes. I've tried various different shoes, and obviously these now. I've not tried Nikes, and because I've got a bit of an ethical issue with Nike, but I have tried various shoes, and I've obviously tried other various types of shoes as well. So in fact, I spent quite a lot of money on shoes trying them out, which annoys Lauren quite a lot.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And one of the things that I've struggled with is finding a performance shoe of this type that I got on well with, that a shoe that I felt that I could run functionally, effectively in, and didn't put me at risk of injury or poor form. Now that might sound a bit strange, because of course the general consensus is that, you know, wearing a performance shoe will make you a better runner or a faster runner, and I don't actually think that's necessarily true. And my experience is that that hasn't been true. Now over the years I've run in all kinds of different things. So I'm 47 years old now, and I've been running in one form or another since I was probably like 10 years old, I guess. Previously it was mostly as training for hockey, fitness training for hockey. So I've run in running shoes, I've run in trail shoes, I've run in hockey AstroTurf shoes, which over my entire career changed quite a lot. Even at school, doing cross country in rugby boots and football boots, because that's what we did, you know, running along the pavement to get to the woods in rugby boots, and then running up a limestone trail in rugby boots, and then round the muddy golf course and then back down. Probably wasn't that good for our feet, but it is what we did back in the day. I've used running spikes, all kinds of different things. And the one set of shoes that I found it really difficult to get to grips with properly is these high performance shoes. And these are the first ones, and today was the first run ever where I actually felt that this performance shoe was actually supporting my form and my performance rather than hindering it. And why is that? Well, because obviously with a high stack, well cushioned shoe, for me, I found that the stability issues or the lack of stability completely outweighed any benefit I got. So over the last 18 months, I've had a little bit of yo-yoing in my run form because I've been carrying a couple of niggles. And that yo-yoing in my run form has meant that I haven't been able to run as quickly with the level of efficiency I want, so I might have done in the past. And so because I haven't been running that quickly, what I've tended to find, and when I say not that quickly, I know that I'm in reasonable form when I can run sort of tempo runs with an intensity or pace of about 4 minutes per kilometre or less. So let me try and give this some perspective. My very best day in a 70.3 run would be around 3:45 per k, which is about 1:18 for the run split. You know, on a flat course in good conditions, that would be kind of in a Dubai type course. That's probably what I'd expect. And I have run 1:18 at Dubai. I've run under 1:23 times. Interestingly, two of those occasions were in Skechers Razors, which isn't a performance shoe of any kind, really. And one of those times was in I think a Hoka Carbon X2. So anyway, I haven't felt that recently I've been consistently able to run that quickly, where a shoe of this type would provide me with a benefit. And today's the first time where I've been able to maintain good enough form and run at that pace since I got these shoes. So this is probably like the 10th time I've worn them, something like that. And the reason I've been wearing them is because since I bought them, what I've thought is one of the things I needed to do was develop the biomechanical efficiency, the functional skill to be able to make use of them as well, because they do run very differently to shoes I've worn in the past. And that in itself could have been a contribution factor too, of course. But for me personally, I think it's simply that I haven't been able to run quickly enough with good enough form before today to benefit from them. And in fact, prior to today, there was a greater risk that they were a hindrance to my form. But I also realised that if I didn't practice running in them, I couldn't learn to run in them or find out whether or not they could support my form. So I had to go through that process. And I would argue that one of the things that concerns me in the triathlon world, and a friend of mine posted about this recently, and I totally agreed with him, was that my concern is that I think people are wearing performance shoes because they see high performance athletes wearing them, thinking that that's what they then need to wear. And I actually think they're a hindrance. And I've got a lot of friends who have got lots of injuries or carrying lots of long-term injuries. And I wonder if their perseverance with a performance shoe, and especially knowing how fast they can or can't run, I wonder if their perseverance with a performance type shoe, a high stack performance type shoe, is probably a big part of the problem. It certainly would have been for me over the last 2 years if that's the path I'd gone down. So for me, the jury's still out. I'm not too sure whether these are the shoes that are right for me. The fit on this shoe, this is the other thing, I've got quite weird feet. I've got very narrow heels. I've got very long, well, not big feet, but very narrow feet. But I also have a slight neurological problem on this foot where I've got a bit of nerve damage, and if the shoe presses at the wrong pace, it's quite uncomfortable for me. So I have to have a wide enough toe box not to cause pressure points, but also the shoe needs to be narrow enough to support my foot and give me enough heel lock. So it's quite tricky for me. Interesting, the old Hoka Carbon X2 did that perfectly for me. This shoe not so well, but I have got used to the fit. So you can get used to a different fit. So for me, if someone said to me, right, okay, you've got a race next week and you've got to choose, I'd probably still go for the Carbon X2. And I stocked up on loads of pairs when they was discontinued because they were really cheap, and also because I knew they worked for me. Then the Carbon X3, the upper, I don't think Hoka got the upper right on that. I don't think it was supportive enough. And I like to add, I've got no relationship with Hoka at all, actually. I don't have any connection to their brand. In fact, I've whinged at them a couple of times for sponsoring athletes that promote Brett Sutton. Be fair to Hoka, they have come back to me, so which is quite good. So anyway, but I do like the product, and this is probably the best performance shoe from my perspective that I've tried so far. So I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm undecided what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to do more runs in these shoes now that I've got that pace and form back to make a decision. If I had to race next week, I'd probably go for Carbon X2s, I think, because I think that they're the perfect balance for me between performance and sustainable form, especially under fatigue at the end of a race. And I think for me, that's a better balance. And when you consider that I'm probably in that range where on a flat course, on a good day, I'm expecting around about a 1:20 half marathon. If you're not in that range, then maybe it's something you need to think about, whether a performance shoe is the right thing for you. And I think as you get a bit older and functionally you become less efficient and you may be carrying niggles and injuries, I think protecting yourself from further risk, it probably outweighs the potential and uncertain performance gain you might get. I know there's a bit of a FOMO bit, you know, everyone's wearing them, so I've got to wear them. But isn't this is the same in all sports? You know, I've skied, snowboarded, not competitively, but I have quite a lot. I've played hockey, obviously, done lots of cycling, and one of the things that I found in all sports is that people tend to buy the best equipment, or what they think is the best equipment, because they think it'll be right for them, because that's what the best athletes are using, or the fastest athletes are using. We see it in cycling. Everyone's buying a £6,000 aero road bike, or wants to, you know, when really probably a gravel bike. I don't actually own a road bike, right? I only ride a gravel bike and a TT bike. So I practice for my races on my TT bike, and I ride a gravel bike with a suspension seat post the rest of the time, because it's comfortable and it protects me from getting injured. But everyone's out buying like performance road bikes. Everyone's out buying like Alpha Flies. Everyone's, you know, and in hockey, everyone, you know, the sponsored players would be playing with like £100 sticks, and they were fine. And then you'd have everyone else going out and buying £300 sticks because they were the most expensive, assuming they'd be best. And they're probably worse for them because they were stiffer and less compliant. Same with snowboards, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'll buy the most expensive snowboard, which is actually probably not good if you're an intermediate or beginner snowboarder, because it'll be more difficult for you to ride. So it's this weird thing that people have that they get sucked into, I've always used the analogy that if you want a fast car, you don't go out and buy an Ariel Atom. Right? There is one around the corner from us actually, but you don't go out and buy an Ariel Atom or a Lotus 7. You buy a Golf GTI, or you might buy a Subaru Impreza or an Evo, or something like that, or Civic Type R, because you know that an Ariel Atom isn't actually going to tick the right boxes. It's fast, but it's not going to tick the right boxes yet. In sports, we seem to make a decision that would be equivalent to everyone going out and buying an Ariel Atom if they wanted a fast car. Crazy. So anyway, there we are. That's where I'm at with the performance shoe thing. Obviously, it's just my experiences. I've tried to give you a bit of context about me as an athlete. Lauren's videoing, I'd say functionally, I'm quite efficient as a runner.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm reasonably competent. Don't have any particularly big flaws in my technique. Do have a slight problem with my right leg stability and tracking due to an old hockey injury, but it's one that I do. I do S&C once a week, don't I? Mm-hmm. That works specifically around that. I stretch for 15 minutes every single day. So, yeah, I tick a lot of boxes. My body composition's spot on, so I'm not carrying any excess weight. So when you factor all those things in, and I'm still saying that I don't think a performance shoe's right for me, hopefully it might help you to make some of those decisions. All right, hope that was useful. Okay, cheers, guys.